Hello everyone and welcome to the SAP IBP 2502 release video. I'm Thomas, supply chain planning expert at Flexso. You may know me from 2 or 3 release videos ago. And today I have a new face with me.
I'm Abdessamad. I'm also a SAP supply chain planning expert.
Okay, welcome to the video. We will again show you 4 new features that we find most interesting about the SAP IBP 2502 release. So first we'll talk a bit more about contextual navigation. We've already talked a bit about that in our previous release video, but they made some interesting enhancements, so we will walk you through that one as well. After that we'll talk a bit more about the best fit forecast model and also about parallel processing. And we'll close with some changes in analytic stories and planner workspaces for MRO. First of all, the contextual navigation. As I said, we already talked a bit about that in our previous release video, but I will do a quick recap of what the purpose of contextual navigation is. So basically, this allows the planner to pass over a filter from a source component in your planner workspace to either a target component in the same planner workspace, or you can also go via a navigation that you set up yourself to another system. So for example, the SAP GUI or the Fiori app or another web app if you want to. Basically, what this does, SAP tries to give a better performance of the planner workspaces in general and a usability for the planner itself. So with this, you can easily navigate between your tabs. You can easily see only relevant information. And what this also does is planners don't need to set manual filters anymore. So if you have a filter in one component and you want to apply that data in another component, then you don't have to reset the filter or change your attributes. The system will do that automatically, and then you also don't need to think, okay, what could be a relevant filter for my data that I have here? And apart from that, it will only show you relevant data points. So for example, if a filter was not correctly defined or a contextual navigation did not work the way you wanted to, you have like long list with data that you need to analyze or you need to scroll through. Now with this, you will only see relevant data points. So as I said, we already talked a bit more about this in one of our previous release videos. So if you want to know more about contextual navigation itself, I will post a link in the slide here so you can go and check that out. I will talk a bit more now about the enhancements that were made to contextual navigation in the 2502 release. First of all, we'll talk a bit about attribute mapping using master data. So for example, here we have a planner workspace of your bill of material, which will show you production receipts from a certain location. And if you then want to check out the capacities used for that production, previously if you set a filter for your location, and if you would then go to that contextual navigation, you will only get, the resources for the whole location. So all the resources within that location would be shown in another tab. So what that would do is you would have a lot of data that you need to analyze or you need to go through, and that would not be relevant for the planner, or that's something that the planner does not want to see. So now what they've changed is they added an attribute mapping for using master data. So for example, now you can set up that, for example, in this case, your source ID is linked to your resource ID. So you would only see the resources which are used by certain sources. So only the relevant data for the attributes in question would be shown in the target component in your planner workspace, which I think is a very nice addition and would make the planner's life a lot easier. Next to that, in previous releases, it was also possible to navigate to other systems. SAP has now changed that or enhanced that a bit as well. So for example, if you set up, in this case, a navigation to PPDS from IBP, this was visible in all your components in your planner workspace, but they now added an additional tab where you can say, okay, this navigation should only be visible in this component in my planner workspace, so it will only show up in the relevant components, which I think removes a bit of the clutter within your planner workspace because it can be quite full of data and you only want to see the relevant things within each component. So that was the contextual navigation, and now Abdes will talk a bit about the next one.
Thank you. The second interesting feature we're going to present is an enhancement for the best fit forecasting model. So with the new enhancement, you can keep track of which model has been chosen when you use a best fit forecasting model or when you use a weighted average model. The weighted composition is then saved, and you can also keep track of that. A weighted average model is a model that uses multiple different forecasting model and gives an weight to the output of those model, and that becomes the output of the weighted average model. So the results of this is now saved in a new attribute. You can assign a new attribute where all these values are being saved. So for the best fit model, it's the winning model, and for the weighted average model is the weighted composite that is being saved. If you're using manual forecasting, so you have selected the model before running the forecasting model, then it would just mention manual forecasting. This new feature has no effect on the forecasting algorithm itself. It's a post-processing step, meaning that, let's say the saving of your winning model fails, you just get a pop-up warning, but it does not affect the actual forecasting that happened. That's still okay. And at the moment, this is only available in Fiori, not in the Excel add-in. However, there is a small workaround. If you save a custom application job template and hard code the value of the attribute itself, then you can also run this from your Excel add-in.
Nice. Nice. I think some demand people will be happy with this.
Exactly. The third interesting feature that I'm going to talk about is parallel processing. And in my opinion, this is the most interesting technical feature that has been added this release. So there are 4 important things that you need to know about this. So before, when you were loading data or integrating data from another system, the data load happened sequentially, meaning one after another. Now with this release, parallel processing is introduced. If it's possible, then this will happen. This new feature could make your integration up to 40% more efficient than before. This feature itself does not require any special configuration. It's activated automatically, and in case that parallel processing cannot happen, the system will do sequential processing just like before. So it's a win-win, I would say. Also, some checks happen before introducing parallel processing. So it will check time periods, master data, and key figure data to see if parallel processing is possible. So now a small example to show what this actually means. So let's say we want to upload the following data. We have 4 different master data types that we want to update and 2 key figures that we want to update. Okay, first all the master data would be loaded in, and afterwards the 2 key figures would be updated. However, with the new release, the loading of the data or the data integration would happen as follows. So first it would load in the product master data, because this is not this conflicts with other stuff, so this will be loaded in first. Then the location and the unit of measure 2 master data will be loaded in. Because these 2 are completely separate, you can load them in a parallel way. Then in step 3, you would load in the customer master data and the unit of measure conversion factor that is on a product unit of measure 2 level. So these 2 are also completely separate and can also be loaded in separately, in parallel. Then in the last step, you would load in the forecasting mappe.
Okay, nice. So basically, if there are some interdependencies or some consequences somewhere within your loads, then it would just do it separately.
Exactly.
And if it's possible to do it together, then it would see that, or it recognizes that, and then it will do it. Okay,
exactly.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, the last thing I will talk about is some analytic stories and planner workspaces for maintenance, repair, and operations. So maybe there are some MRO planners who are very excited to hear about this. So now what SAP has introduced is a fast adoption of best-in-class analytics for your MRO process. So planners would instantly be able to analyze the results of the whole MRO process, either on a very high level, and that's the purpose of the analytic stories. So there you can visualize your key measures at an aggregated level if you want to quickly check those. But you can also go into further detail in your planner workspaces, where you then see all the relevant input and output. There's a very nice demo about this new feature, so I would definitely tell you to go and check that out. I'm already going to give you a bit of a teaser of what is mentioned in the demo, so that's what I'm going to show you now. So SAP has introduced a new MRO process where they want to divide it into 4 big categories. So first of all, you have your segmentation and your demand analysis, where they will go and segment and analyze the criticality of certain parts. Then they will go to the inventory planning, where they will see service levels or inventory reviews. Then the next step is your supply and your capacity review. And at the last part, you have your financial review of all your upstream processes. So first of all, we have 4 different steps. Then the first part is your segmentation and your demand analysis. So specifically for this step, they have dedicated one analytic story and a planner workspace specifically for that. So if you want to check which parts are critical or your demand or your segmentation for certain things, then you can go and check that out in those specific analytic story or in that specific planner workspace. Then next, they have done the same thing for inventory planning. So if you have critical parameters like your safety stock or your inventory levels that you want to check, you can do this at a very high level or a very detailed level. If you want to check out for a specific product or a specific location, you can do that in your planner workspace, and a high level is mentioned in your analytics story. Then thirdly, you have your supply and capacity review. So if you have possible issues or you have stockouts or other types of things you need to worry about, then you can address these in also a specific analytics story or a planner workspace for this specific step within the new MRO process. And lastly, you also have a financial review of all the upstream processes that I just mentioned. There you can review that and see if everything matches. So those were the 4 new interesting features that we wanted to show you in the 2502 release. If you want to know more about that, I would definitely guide you to our landing page, where you can review the video if you want. You can also check out other releases if you want to know more about some stuff that you maybe didn't comprehend in this one. For example, contextual navigation is mentioned in our previous one, so I would definitely tell you to go and check that one out. If you have in general questions about your supply chain process, or just SAP IBP, we also have a link towards our LinkedIn page, where you can post a question or you can contact us, and one of our supply chain experts will definitely get in touch with you and happily help you further with your question or your problem. So last of all, there's nothing more than me to tell you thank you for listening to a video, and we will see you again in our next release. Bye-bye.
Bye.